Eternals was hands down my most anticipated MCU film of this entire year. I have been dying to get my hands on it. I finally saw it, and this will of course be my non-spoiler review for the brand new film, because there's a lot that happens in this, and trust me, you don't want to be spoiled. And goddamn, yes, it is ambitious, but it is absolutely beautiful, epic, and holy shit is it awesome. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Chloe Zhao's The Eternals. Now, of course, this is the MCU's latest movie, the second to last film of this year. Last we got, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home in December. I've been dying to see this movie because I think Chloe Zhao is a phenomenal director, but also because I knew really nothing about The Eternals. I started reading their comics a little bit earlier this year, and I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with Jack Kirby's world, and especially the Neil Gaiman stuff that he created. Whew, just amazing. The Eternals are some of the most unique characters that the MCU has ever created, and the fact that we finally have them now in live action is just truly amazing. That this is the point that we're in. And I know Chloe Zhao actually went to Kevin Feige herself and pitched this story with these characters and what she wanted to do, and he was sold, saying it's one of the best pitches that he's ever been heard of. And honestly, this film has just been championed that probably be one of the best MCU films, and I definitely think that this will divide many people. I think some people will love it. I think some people will be disappointed. I think some people will not know how to feel. Just like my best friend who went with me. He sat there and he left and he goes, I liked a lot of it, but I also don't know how to feel a lot about the other parts of it. And I think this is a movie that is absolutely going to grow on rewatches. I think the more and more you sit on it, the more and more you marinate on it, the more and more all that works around. I think people will truly start to fall for this film. And maybe you'll fall for it right as you walk out like I did, because I love this film. And the more and more I start talking about it, even with my small issues that I have with the film, which we'll definitely talk about, I don't know how this review will go because I think a lot of it is a ramble and I'm already starting to ramble. But god damn, this movie was insane. Of course, if you guys are new here and you guys love talking movies, especially movies early, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies over here on a daily basis. I love talking movies. I'm a geek just like you, so this is truly a special channel for you guys. As well as make sure to comment down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Have you seen The Eternals yet? Are you excited for it? Let's discuss it all down there. And of course, just a big thank you to our sponsor of this video, the Scottsdale International Film Festival. If for any reason you're in Arizona and you want to see some cool movies early, well, go check out them down below for some tickets. Let's start with my pros, and one of the absolute best pros about The Eternals was flat out the characters. Now, I was very excited going and seeing a lot of these cast members already joining, some new heroes that, again, I've been really into from the comics lately, and getting into them, being like, okay, I want to see them come to live action, and hot damn! Every character, I don't even know if I have a favorite. I have some that have favorite moments, but I love them all equally. I just wanted to give them all a big hug and scream to the high heavens how fantastic all of them were. Their performances were perfection, and I was just pretty blown away by that. Characters that I was really excited about exceeded my expectations. Characters that maybe I weren't that excited about seeing really were great and made me fall in love with them. Zhao did a really great job of making every character feel important to the story, and not just important, but feel valuable, feel loved, and feel a part of this family that is the Eternals. Kevin Feige has very much said that Gemma Chan is the main character of this, and hands down, you can totally tell that her character Cersei is in here. But for me, one of the things that I love about these characters, who are pretty much in a sense gods to humanity, as we see them spanning decades, centuries, years on our beloved Earth. This is something that you get to see throughout the entire movie, and one of the things that I truly loved about that, and seeing just from the trailers, there's so much depth to that. But in a sense, these characters, these heroes, these superheroes in a sense, are gods to a lot of people. But what Chloe Zhao is able to do is bring the humanity down into them. This is something that she has truly done through a lot of her different movies, whether it is, of course, The Rider, or, of course, last year's Nomadland. She does the exact same thing with the Eternals here, and bringing that humanity to every person, layering it out to where you really understand every person's purpose, their issues, and maybe what they are feeling deep down, and especially how they feel towards humanity and their world around them. Like I mentioned, Gemma Chan was great as Cersei. Richard Madden as Icarus, fantastic. Angelina Jolie as Athena, Oh my God, don't even get me started. How great Jolie was as Thena. Selma Hayek as Ajax was a big standout. Of course, Kit Harington as Dan Whitman. Now, if you know who Dan Whitman is from the comics, woo! He's not in it a lot. But I need more of Kit Harington in the MCU. Honest to God, I mean, seriously, the rest of the Eternals. Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, great. Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos. Oh my God! McHugh as Sprite. Lauren Ridloff, who I've been a major fan of ever since she debuted on The Walking Dead and in Sound of Metal. Every time she shows up, I'm a big fan. And her as Macquarie. Oh my God! And Don Lee or Mongan Sok, who plays Gilgamesh, it was just amazing. Oh my God, just amazing. Of course, last but not least, Barry Keoghan as Druig was maybe one of my biggest surprises, because as much as I love Barry Keoghan as a director, I didn't know how much he was going to be in this, but he truly is. I mean, all the Eternals get a big, wide, epic scope of runtime in here. You know, there's obviously some that get more runtime than others, but seriously, all of them feel so important to the story and really much layering out their humanity. I think the big star of this, though, is Chloe Zhao and her ambitious direction in here. This is the most ambitious thing that probably Marvel has ever made since the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Now, I'm not saying the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are ambitious, but it was different and unique at the time, and the Eternals is going at this. And I really thought Shang-Chi was going to do that, and Shang-Chi was unique and different, and it also incredible. I think this is one of the strongest years for the MCU yet. But Eternals does this in a unique way, where it puts story and character above action and set pieces of that nature, which we'll talk about that. I actually really dug some of those, but I do want to give a point of view to what my friend said a little bit later on. But I loved how Chloe Zhao was able to bring that life together within this and really much flesh out a story that made me intertwined within this film. And what this movie made it feel like was Prometheus, but from the perspective of the engineers. And for me, that was damn brilliant. I have to give a shout out to Robert Meyer Burnett, who shows up on the John Campea show a lot. He was the one that kind of made that perspective, and after seeing the movie, I totally understand. So many moments that I want to talk about with certain powers or ways that they use their powers that I didn't even think they could go in that direction. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And that's a lot of me rambling, and a lot more that I'll probably need to do in a spoiler review after I see it for a second time. But going from a little bit more further in, I talk about Chloe Zhao being a big star of this and her direction and how ambitious and incredible it was and the way that she was able to layer out these stories with humanity. But one of the things that I really love about her as a director is the way that she was able to capture the realness of the world that it is in, and her perspective of using a lot more of actual real life locations instead of green screen can be very much felt in the cinematography, which I thought was beautiful, but as well as in the direction for a lot of the action set pieces. Now, I never thought any of the action set pieces got big and epic in scope as they possibly could have been, especially when you add in the Celestials that you see within the, of course, trailers. But the way that they used the Celestials in here was very intriguing, and I actually felt that the story, I've seen a lot of people say that they got lost in, and maybe was a bit too much or overstuffed. And for me, I never thought that for a second. I found the story to be very cohesive and organized with the way it was telling, bouncing around different timelines, but in a very organized manner that, yes, does feel like a lot. And while I needed a giant breather after the film, I walked out going, Jesus Christ, we don't get a lot of movies like this. And when it comes down to epic stories like this, something I kind of want to compare it to is Zack Snyder's Justice League, or even his Man of Steel, or even Batman v Superman, which I know not everyone's a fan of, but that epic scope, that ambitious nature that Zack Snyder brings to the table, I found Chloe kind of brought here. Even, I mean, the way that she frames Icarus as being the Superman for this world, and the way that he flies around, you can totally tell that she took inspiration from Henry Cavill's Superman and even the original Christopher Reeves. I actually think every single one of these characters in a way is shined on a light as, you know, Chloe Zhao's big love for big sci-fi, whether it is Star Wars or even Marvel. The way that she has grown up with certain ambitious things like this, you can see that she brings it to life. I mean, hell, the opening scene feels like something out of Star Wars, and you'll get what I mean right when you see it. It's big, it's bold, it's epic, and there's so much I want to talk about, but of course this is a non-spoiler review. One last little piece that I want to mention on a technical level, because while the suits, the production design, the set design, all that stuff looks amazing, the score in here is phenomenal. Now, I know that the composer of Game of Thrones came to compose this beautiful thing for the Eternals, but it feels epic in its nature, and I use the word epic a lot because it does feel that way. The way that it mixes fantasy and sci-fi in such a unique template, it's jaw-dropping. And I think one of the things that I really walk out of the Eternals going about saying is that this doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. In a good way, too. And for me, I love the MCU. I love what they've been doing, but I also love these more separate, standalone stories that are to the side about characters that we haven't seen before. Yes, there's Easter eggs here and there to certain things that have happened in the MCU, but overall it feels very concurrent within its little bubble. But in general, a big bubble, because the implications in this movie, I cannot imagine how big they will be for the entire universe of the MCU. And I can't wait to see what they do in those instances, and in general what they will do with select characters leading forward. Because I'm not joking, I need to see more of everyone and more of the Eternals right now. I cannot wait for a sequel. Oh, let's get to my cons though. Like, I've been gushing and rambling about this movie, and I apologize so much. So if you're still here, thank you so much. I, again, love this movie, but there are still certain things that I don't know how to feel about yet. But one thing I do know how to feel about yet is I did feel like some of the dialogue was a little bit weak. I expected a little bit more from that, and I actually wish that Chloe Zhao actually went more, and maybe she did this, but if watching the movie, it didn't feel like this. She goes with a lot of more, like, on the notes, like, in the moment type feels in a lot of her different movies, and it always feels so natural. In this movie, some of the lines didn't feel as natural as they were, especially just in the beginning. As the movie starts to flesh itself out, it felt a little bit better, and I'm wondering if the direction that was told here was because, the Eternals, you really see the beginning of them all, and I'm wondering if that's maybe the reasoning that it felt like that. But for me, it kind of deterred into the beginning of the film, and it took me a bit to finally segue my love and really much get immersed in this entire world. And the other aspect of the movie that I didn't really enjoy, it's a spoiler, so I'm not going to get into it, but select characters make choices, some that I really liked. Some that I really, really liked. But there's one character in particular that makes a choice that I'm like, I don't like that. And then I was sitting there, I was like, okay, well, it's got to change, right? And it never changed, and I just sat there, I was like, okay then. And it's a spoiler, I have to be vague about it. I think when you see it, you maybe understand which character I'm talking about. If not, we can talk about it down below in the comment section, or when I do a spoiler review, because I absolutely need to when this film comes out. Chloe Zhao's Eternals is a triumph. It's a slow-burning story that was epic in nature, beautiful in character development, and brutal when its action scenes came to be. So many thoughts, so much ambition, but truly something that the MCU hasn't seen yet, and the implications, once again, will be huge. I absolutely loved every single character in here. I think each performance was absolutely such a standout. It's hard for me to pick favorites, but if I really need to, I loved Macquarie, Lauren Ridloff's character. I loved Druig, Baron Keegan. I love Gemma Chan. I love Angelina Jolie, and I loved Brian Tyree Henry. I thought they were all fantastic, but that really doesn't take away from anyone else in this film because they're all superb. I had one issue with one character decision that they made towards the end of the film that I kind of wish wasn't there. It seems like something we've seen that's a little bit cliche, but there are twists, turns, and big spoilers in here that are not out there in the world. So see this film as soon as possible. That way you are not spoiled at all. I know one of the end credit scenes is out there, so beware of the comment section. But goddamn, are those end credit scenes really good, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about them as well. So overall, as you can tell, I love the Eternals. I think this is, again, something very different that the MCU has never done before, and I really hope Chloe Zhao gets to do a sequel to this one, because we need more films like this in the MCU. A lot of us are clamoring for more standalone films in the MCU back when Sam Raimi would make Spider-Man movies. Well, hey! Guys, let's let them keep making movies like this. Let's support it. Let's understand it's going to be a little bit different. But if it's not for you, I totally understand. We can have a great conversation down below. So with all that said, I'm going to give the Eternals an A. Absolutely one of my favorite films of the year, and I flat out think if Spider-Man No Way Home nails it out of the park, and same thing with Hawkeye, I think this will flat out be probably one of the best years for Marvel yet. I really adored the Eternals. I can't wait to have a great discussion. I already know there's going to be a bunch of people that don't like the film, and that's totally fine, but I can't wait to have that discussion. Thank you once again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to head over to our sponsor right down below, and as well, guys, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. Now, if you want to see movies early, head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see those, and of course, just a big thank you to all of you guys once again. So, of course, until next time, stay classy.